Hello, and welcome to Drinks in Trade, hosted by Franklin & Sons, a vodcast showcasing bartenders, master distillers and hospitality professionals. Today we're in Leeds, a fantastic city for nightlife, independent bars, culture and stunning architecture. My name's Tim Garratt and I'm on my way to meet Tom Kirk from Below Stairs, where we're going to be talking about his career so far in hospitality. And then later on in the episode we'll be meeting with Ben Peel from John Roberts' Botanic Request. Let's go. Hi there, Tom. How you doing?
Not bad, man. Good to see you again. How's things?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. So we're here today in your beautiful bar, Below Stairs.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about the place?
Yeah, so boring stuff. We started tail end of 2017, so we've been around for about 5 years. And everything we kind of do, it's all centered around telling a story with the drinks. So it's very concept-led. Each of the drinks is trying to kind of capture a particular place or a moment. So that gives us a chance to do lots of really cool, really interesting stuff behind the bar, but it means that if the guests can kind of get that story, get that moment, then the drink won't scare them, you know, they'll understand how it kind of comes together in the end.
So give us an example of how this works.
So one that we've had on and off pretty much since we opened and is actually going to be on our next menu is the primary education. And that one, for me, it's a real proper kind of connection between like flavor and memory. The drink itself is inspired by like a warming, fortifying bowl of porridge in the morning. So you've got like an oat infusion, you've got a fat wash in there, a couple of different interesting sort of sweeteners. But to me, every time I taste it, I'm instantly in my nana's kitchen making flapjacks. You know, it properly encapsulates that moment.
Why a bowl of porridge? Where did the inspiration come from for that?
So that actually came from, so the two brothers that own the bar, Manny and Jamie, they grew up in Flash, and it's highest village in the UK. It's just terrible, terrible winters. Their mum used to give them a little nip of whiskey in their morning porridge in the winter.
That's a great way to start the day.
Well, that's how I start every day, and just to get up and ready for school, you know? That's kind of where that drink came from. But like I say, for me, it's that moment making flapjacks with my nana, but everybody's got that kind of...
Yeah.
They've got that connection.
It's something to be able to bring back, something to resemble the drink to.
Well, exactly, yeah. So you take that sip and you're in that place, you're in that moment.
Well, it's quite common to link drinks back, flavours especially, back to food anyway.
Yeah, I mean, flavours and memory, and particularly with drinks, because the cocktail scene is... We had the whole revival at the beginning of the 2000s, but it's still not quite in the same place that like fine dining might be, you know what I mean? But it's that same level of flavor combination. So for a lot of people, it's easier to attach it to a dish, you know, because they're more familiar with that.
Of course.
Yeah.
How long have you worked in the industry for?
About 15 years. So I started doing the odd little catering thing when I was 16, 17, got my first pub job at 18. And I've been doing it alongside all the usual sort of bumbling around life stuff that you do in your late teens, early 20s. Yeah. And I just love it. I've just kind of stuck with it. Every day's different, you know.
It's not, I mean, speaking from my point of view, it's not something that you grow up wanting to be.
Yeah.
It's definitely an industry that you fall in love with whilst doing.
For sure. We all kind of stumble into it from doing something else. Nobody ever grows up just going, I want to make drinks for a living. Everybody's astronaut, fireman. I wanted to be a paleontologist when I was younger because I like digging. You know, nobody lives their dreams of making martinis. No, well, I think outside of my time in London, I think I can count on two hands how many martinis I actually made, and then I can start counting back how many times people ask me to put lemonade or tonic water in them. Don't.
But it's that element of some horses for courses, different drinks for people. They hear a name, they want to try it, but it's a different style of scenario, isn't it?
Yeah.
What kind of inspirational bartenders have led you during your career?
I've been quite lucky. There's been a lot of people that I've worked with that have helped kind of push me. But one that really sticks with me is one of my early managers really laid the foundations, and it was how you kind of presented yourself, how you carried yourself. Every single action you kind of do from start to finish of making a drink is important, and that whole process really laid the foundations for a lot of what I went on to do technique-wise, but also what I do in the rest of my life. Foundations are hugely important. And right now, the guys that I work with, Manny, one of the owners, and Dan, whose CV is basically a greatest hits at Leeds bars, we all have these different approaches. So every day's a school day. You're always learning something.
Yeah.
So I do feel quite lucky in that sense.
But that's what works within a good team. You need to be different people. You need different experience. You need different styles because you need to be able to challenge each other. And if you're all the same, it's mundane. It's the same stuff all the time. There's nothing pushing menus, nothing pushing creativity.
Yeah, for sure.
Which bar was it that your manager you talked about before?
So it was at BB's, actually.
Okay.
And Tadas, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, mostly because I can't remember it. But yeah, so that was 5, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
A while back. We'll put it that way, a while back.
Nice.
Sure.
Cool. And where do you tend to go out when you go drinking?
So when I drink, I like to, like everybody else, bars are kind of your social life, but you're talking with a person across the way. So I like to go see my friends, people I haven't seen in a while. I used to live around the corner from Maven's. That was my local for a long time.
Nice,
That's
great bar.
still got a place in my heart. We get a lot of comparisons to Maven. We're downstairs, they're upstairs. It's a similar sort of vibe. I also really love the Domino. They're open a little bit later than us. They've always got live music on. It's such a cool space in there. Really great team, really great cocktails.
Yeah. Classic speakeasy style, through the barber shop, down into this cool
100%.
little jazz club, cocktail bar.
Well, yeah, 100%. When I first moved up to Leeds, it was a nightclub, but it was just sort of shut in. And so when it first time opened, I just thought, why has this barber shop got such a big basement? But if I'm doing cocktails, it's one of them two.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm a beer nerd, but I do like my beers. And North Bar, obviously Leeds staple.
I think every bartender likes a beer now.
Well, yeah, it's that classic thing of Michelin-starred chefs go home and eat pot noodle. Cocktail bartenders, they want a pint.
Exactly.
Easy peasy. But I'll go to North Bar or I'll go to Brownhill & Co. They have a very similar style of service to us, but on the beer side of things, it's super well kept, really great menu.
Nice. I've not been there. I'll give them a go.
Definitely, man. If you've got time.
Love a good beer.
Yeah.
A nice little chaser, perhaps.
just a little one. Just a little one.
So during your career, what has been your favourite creation to make?
So there's one on the menu at the minute that I really love, just because a lot of our drinks start from sort of stupid conversations or out there flavour pairings. And this one's actually kind of centered around a melon, prosciutto, and burrata dish that I had once.
Nice.
And so the drink is it's savory and fresh, but it just kind of kept going. And it's 8 ingredients. It's a savory gin base. You've got grapefruit, you've got sherry, you've got tomato in there. And then just to crown everything, just a little, 4 drops of Midori.
Right.
It really wound everybody up at the dev meeting because it was just 9 ingredients. This was going to be a mess. And then it just comes out this fresh savoriness. I'm a big fan of zero waste as well.
Yeah.
And so all the kind of byproducts from producing the homemades for that go into the garnish. So it's a really kind of closed loop. Really dumb drink on paper, but just works really well. And that's
do you use a dehydrator? Do you create oleosaccharums? Do you do stuff like that?
Yeah, so we do a lot of that stuff to kind of prolong the shelf life, get the most out of things. I mean, citrus is the big one that everybody goes to. So for us, we make sure we use every single bit of it. But for that particular drink, it's the cherry tomatoes that go into it. We strain it through some coffee vapor, so it's basically clarified. But we season the pulp with a little bit of salt and basil.
Nice. On
a little bit of crostini. Just goes with a fresh and savory vibe of the drink, so you get a little snack to kind of pair it with. It's all that kind of
turning your infused berries into a jam and doing the same kind of thing.
Exactly.
That kind of style.
We got lots of that going on. This menu, more so on the next one. We just, something goes into the bin.
Yeah,
it's wasted money, it's wasted flavor, it's not efficient.
I've seen all sorts before, from using eggshells to be able to recreate something and everything else.
Eggshells.
Yeah. It's quite
what
interesting.
Do with the eggshells? Just a little kind of cup on the side,
It was a bar in Edinburgh. And I can't remember exactly what he was doing, but he was creating. It was almost like creating an ash out of the eggshells to then rebuild back into it.
How bizarre! I'll have to give that a go. Not that we use eggs, but just at home after breakfast, I'm going to turn this egg into an ash, little garnish.
So obviously during your career, I did a few competitions back in my day. I had the pleasure of going out to Mexico and all sorts of stuff and getting those lovely trips paid for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever done anything like that?
So one of the first ones, and was a bit of a kind of flashpoint for me bartender-wise, was for Angostura and for their kind of global final. We all got flown out to Trinidad, spent a week. They put us up in the Marriott. They took us out on the town. It was all crowned with the competition and then into Carnival. And it's one of those experiences that just sticks with you. And the people you kind of meet on those as well.
Yeah.
I learned so much about myself as a bartender and what I wanted to achieve and the kind of drinks that I wanted to make. And that was definitely a moment where I was like, okay, this is a real career. This is something that I want to stick with. There are so many doors.
Yeah.
There's so many ways you can go, you know?
Well, that's it. I mean, you can stay as a bartender, you can work your way up into management, you can go into head bartending. It depends on your level of creativity. You can go into sales, you can go into ambassadorial work. There's loads of different stuff that you can work with if you don't want to stay working late nights in a bar, for example.
Well, yeah, I mean, we all get to a point where our shoulder starts to go, our hips start to creak.
Way forward is stirred drinks.
Everything's stirred. Although then you're there with a spoon in each elbow trying to do 6 drinks at once. That's the other thing is like, from the outside, hospitality looks so straightforward, but when you're in it, like you say, there's so many different ways you can go with it.
It's liquid chefs. It's being a liquid chef. And obviously there's different tiers of cooking as there is different tiers of bartending.
100%. You know, not everybody's Gordon Ramsay.
No.
You know, but there's so much in between that and McDee's.
Which I'm sure he's glad that that's the case, that not everybody's Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, he'd make a lot less TV shows if everybody was him, that's for sure.
What was the drink that you created out in Trinidad?
So it was 2. They were launching their Amaro, and we had to do one based around the rums, one based around the Amaro. So for the rums, I did a variation on a Queen's Park Super Cocktail. It's the other Queen's Park, not the Swizzle. This one, it's centered around rum, vermouth, citrus, bitters. It's got that real kind of vibrant sorrel hibiscus sort of thing to it. So I did a pineapple-y tarragon one of that, so lots of vanilla, anise, and then the Amaro actually did do a swizzle. It was a bit more tropical, less minty than a Queen's Park would be. But I found out on the day that one of the judges absolutely hated pineapple, so that was not
always a win. Always a win.
Yeah. This is the flavour my drink's based around. Hate it. Okay, I'll just go now. Shall I just plain? Anyway. So I didn't win Angostura, but it was still a really amazing experience.
Nice, good, happy days.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, mate, well, talking about creations, do you fancy making a drink?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it.
Sweet, let's go.
All right.
So then, mate, what are we drinking?
Thinking gimlet, thinking stick classic. You know, we're changing the menu up at the minute, so if we do anything off that, it'll be gone by the time this goes out.
Yeah.
And this way we can kind of showcase some of the other stuff we do that we don't necessarily scream and shout about, but I think it's really cool, you know? And one of those things is actually the way we kind of treat our citrus when it comes in. Rather than doing fresh juice or getting that like stuff brought in, we actually use a concentrate. It's a technique that was developed by a bar in America. It's called super juice. And essentially, instead of, you know, like with an oleo saccharum, you use sugar to pull the oils out of the zest. So you use acid powders for that instead. Okay. So you still get all that lovely lime flavor, but it's much more shelf stable and you get such a better yield from your limes. Oh. So for ours, we use about 8 limes per 1,200 ml. So yeah, exactly. And it just keeps everything nice and consistent because you're not worried about, oh, these limes have come in today, they're a little bit dry, they're a little bit not very juicy, But the other thing from that is we then take all the pulp that's left over, the zest that's left over, and we just make a simple syrup out of it as well.
Okay. So you're still adding sugar into it?
Yeah. So the sugar doesn't go into the super juice, we kind of keep that separate. But yeah, we just make a lime syrup on the side of it. So when we're doing a gimlet, when we're doing a daiquiri, I also tend to throw them in mojitos as well, just because it boosts that flavor. Yeah. But it also means that you're not really wasting your citrus, you know? Because even after it's gone into the syrup, you could dehydrate it, make a little citrus powder, put it in some salt, use it as a salt rim on margarita, so you have like a citrusy salt as well. Yeah. It's all about stopping things from going into the bin, you know? Yeah. So
you're doing that, so you're creating this as 2 separate parts instead of using something classically like roses, lime cordial.
Exactly, and talking about the kind of traditional, the historic one, the roses that we get now is not the roses they would have used back then. Yeah. So there is that whole, especially with a gimlet, a little bit controversial, the whole kind of debate surrounding it. For me, as long as it ends up good and limey and ginny, I'm happy, you know? And using something like rock rose, I love the Scottish style gins. I love getting that kind of, even if they're not using Highland botanicals, it still tastes like it's got the kind of the heather. And it comes from such a beautiful part of Scotland. I'm just trying to get, a little cheeky little trip up to Dunnet Bay, out on the west coast. I have a lovely time.
I hear it's beautiful.
Right. I went to, not quite that high up, but I went to the Highlands for my stag do, just in Pitlochry. Oh my God, it's glorious. I was hanging on Buckfast and whiskey, but it was a nice view to wake up to and just,
These are cool, mate.
Yeah, so that's another kind of thing I wanted to show off. Basically, all the coasters we make, 100% recycled, 100% recyclable as well. It's all old menus, receipts, citrus pith, anything that we get pulped, we pulp it, just carve little coasters, goes into dehydrator for a couple hours. Again, we don't like things going into the bin because that's, when it comes to produce, that's flavour lost, that's money lost.
Bevnaps are the biggest what it costs to waste.
Honestly, when I go to a bar now and they're still doing the whole Bevnap down, it's just like, that's going in the bin afterwards. It's
more used to wiping down your bar top than actually serving a drink.
Yeah. It's not necessarily something that's part of the USP, but it's something that we believe is something you should do, the sustainability aspects, all that kind of stuff. So we don't scream and shout about it, but like I say, I think it's something really cool,
So you're shaking this drink.
I'll do the talking bit after the shaking bit, I feel like I'm ruining the microphone as it is. Sometimes I'll stir it, sometimes I'll shake it. It's just a different textural thing. Day like today, we're sort of mid-afternoon, wanted something a bit brighter, a bit bubblier. If you wanted that kind of richer texture, I'd stir it down. Just slow it down a little bit, not so much aeration.
So you're kind of moving more into like a gin daiquiri rather than that martini side.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is how I make my daiquiris as well, just kind of put the rum in instead of the gin. But it's the difference for me, like I say, with a gimlet in particular, it's a textural thing. It's one of those drinks that it works stirred, it works shaken. It just depends on what sort of mood you're in. So if it was after a shift, I might have one stirred down just so I can chill out a little bit. But if it's, try not to give myself the big one. Trying to be generous. Trying to be generous.
These are beautiful glasses. Are these Nicanoras?
Yeah. So it's an Italian brand, the Rocco Bormiolis, I want to say. But they're that right. I mean, they're just beautiful, aren't they?
They're stunning.
Super elegant. Glasses. Especially when you're not putting a garnish in something, because one of the other benefits of super juice, because you're using all that lime oil, hugely aromatic.
Yeah.
So I don't think you really need to add anything to this. You still get that lovely citrusy aroma.
Still get it on the nose.
I mean, that's, peeling limes. That's the smell of my prep shifts. Oh man, it's one of those drinks as well. Like a good gimlet and a good daiquiri, you need to fight yourself on that first sip, not to just go and get skull the whole thing.
Super clean, super easy to drink, really crisp. But that lime is there, but it's balanced. The sweetness and the sour is balanced, but your lime's still punching heavily.
Well, that's what I mean. There's nowhere to hide with a drink like this, but that's what I kind of love. It's the simplest things that just letting the ingredients shine through. My favorite thing to eat is a caprese. 3 ingredients: tomatoes, mozzarella, bit of basil. It's just
nice. You see, I go down the Catalan way. I go for like a pancop tomato. I have like chopped tomatoes, little garlic, a little bit of grilled bread.
Yeah.
But
little glass of wine on the side, watch the sun go down.
Glass of wine, little gin and tonic, maybe.
Well, big gin and tonic.
No, that's absolutely stunning, mate. Well, cheers.
Dangerously cool.
Salut.
Salut.
I'm grabbing another little sip of this.
I mean, can I chin this on camera? Is that irresponsible drinking if I'm just necking gimlets in the afternoon?
Mate, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
It's all right, Tim. Thanks for coming by.
Pleasure. Beautiful drink.
What a great chat with Tom there from below stairs. I loved his story about flapjacks and I loved his drinks even more. We're going to go back to our tasting room now where we're going to be meeting with Ben Peel from John Roberts' Botanic Request. But before we do, let's stop in at a few bars that we recommend you visit the next time you're in Leeds. We're here today with Ben Peel from John Roberts Botanic Request, a fantastic gin from the suburbs of Leeds. How you doing, Ben?
I'm great, thanks for having us.
Happy days, so welcome being here. Do you want to start telling me a bit about yourself?
Yeah.
A little bit about your past, a little bit about what you've done.
Well, where do I start? So I used to be a bartender for many years, and I find when you meet bartenders, it's always 15 years in the industry. So I've been bartending kind of since I left school, through pubs and bars and stuff like that. And I started to reach an age where I wanted to get off the bar, but stay within the industry. And I managed to get myself a job at Sipsmith as an assistant distiller. Served my time there, or got my wings as a distiller. And kind of produced and distilled their core range until I saw a niche within the company that they needed a dedicated new product distiller.
Nice.
And I guess from the creativity of cocktails and stuff like that, I had a good grasp for pairing flavours and stuff, and I naturally went towards that sort of way.
So you were able to put your creativity and the science that you've just learned from distilling all together. Oh, happy days.
Nice. So I pitched for the role of innovation manager, and I became their first ever dedicated new product distiller, which was pretty cool. And then after some time designing and developing spirits for Sipsmith, I decided to sadly leave and start my own brand and own distillery. So we used to live on a boat in London. We sold the boat, hightailed it back to Yorkshire, where I'm from, and also, obviously we say where the pound goes a little further. And we moved back to West Yorkshire, and we built our own little distillery, liquid lab, and where we could hone our skills and develop our flagship London Dry Gin.
Nice, brilliant. So obviously, in quite a saturated market, what was why choose gin? What did you want to do differently to everyone else?
Well, this is it. You hear a lot of stories on, did the world need another gin? Yes, it did. What we do is we quit our jobs and we decided to, innovation's all about problem solving, and that's something I learned at Sipsmith. You find a problem, and you reverse engineer how to fix that problem. And what we looked at within the industry is that the traditional ways of distilling have been the same way for hundreds of years. You boil alcohol, separate alcohol from botanicals, and the problem we spotted was, should all botanicals be boiled and stewed and treated the same? And we soon realised the answer's no. So we thought, if we're going to join the gin table of thousands of gins, we should be doing something different. Otherwise, there's no point pulling up a chair to the table. So we crafted and created some unique processes in flavour extraction. All
right, nice. How do you do that then?
Well, we look to other sciences on how to remove stuff from stuff and see how we can borrow. We're always learning new things and exploiting new technologies. So what we do is we take our botanical recipe, 11 botanicals that are familiar to gin making. We don't climb a mountain for a rare berry or go to the bottom sea for some rare algae or anything like that. There are 11 classic botanicals, but we extract from them in different ways and methods, depending on the botanical. So we split them into two categories. One being hardy, like if it's a seed, a dried root, a bark, then it needs a bit more of a vigorous treatment. So we give it hell, basically. We put it into a big vacuum chamber, and we pull immense vacuum pressure on it until these very dry, hardy botanicals almost implode and express oils. And the cool thing is, when we put the pressure back, they suck in alcohol. So we essentially are washing out the cells and cavities of these really hardy botanicals very fastly. Our delicate botanicals, if it's a leaf, a herb, a zest, a flower, we treat them as a delicate. And what they do is they see no heat, and we put them into an ultrasonic sound bath that gives it like a gentle surface abrasion. Removes all the oils from the pores, the tannins, but doesn't damage the botanical. And what we find is it prevents unwanted astringencies and bitter notes getting into our bottle. So it's almost like stopping unwanted flavours and empowering the flavours that we want. We reunite these to then distill in a classic traditional way.
I've seen that before in food elements, so using low and high sound waves to basically aggravate the botanicals or aggravate the ingredients.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. And so you've got quite a long name.
Yeah, me personally or the brand? Or...
Obviously your name's not even on it.
Yeah.
So the brand name. So tell me a little bit about that.
So John Roberts Botanic Request is a bit of a double-barreled name, and they both have two slight different feels to them. So the Botanic Request comes from the Rolling Stones, Their Majesty's Satanic Request album, and that was their first ever, believe it or not, self-produced album from leaving a major label.
Yeah.
And being a muso myself and stuff like that, I felt that really resonated with me after leaving a major brand like Sipsmith. And this would be my first ever sort of self-produced album, my first self-produced brand. And rather than having the Satanic Request on my bottle, we just changed the word to Botanic Request, you know, a little play into the botanical element of the spirit.
Nice.
And the John Roberts side is it actually is my name on the bottle. It's my middle name. I'm a Benjamin John Robert Peel. My father's a John Robert and my grandfather's a John Robert. And the brand itself is, because we make it in such a unique way, we celebrate uniqueness. And it's what makes you, you. It's what makes me, me. It's our personality, and we want to empower people to embrace what makes them unique. And if you've ever met my father or my grandfather, they're quite eccentric and don't shy in being themselves. So I thought it was just a nice little touch.
That's fantastic. That's awesome.
Thank
and
you.
looking at the label, obviously you've got a lightning bolt going through it. What's that all about?
Yeah, well, we wanted an imagery that we could own, so to speak. Obviously, it's available in the emoji text. Yeah. It's a common sort of character. It's the Flash, but my co-founder Emily Nielsen, she is Swedish, and it's a little nod to the Swedish mythology of Thor. Also in Greek, Zeus did the same, and wherever they used to throw their lightning bolts, the people of Earth used to build churches, and it was deemed as holy ground. And we like to think wherever we place our little lightning bolts becomes holy ground to us.
That's really cool. Yeah. That's really cool. So you've managed to put your own personal twist on it all without it being too heavily in a consumer space.
Yeah, there's loads of hidden little stories within the label which I could talk about for hours.
I like that. That's cool. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. So you mentioned botanical-wise. So what's your main? Obviously, you talked about hard and soft botanicals. So what main botanicals do you use in this?
So in gin making, it's not about just throwing, well, sometimes it is, just throwing botanicals in a still and by luck you might get a good gin. But there's difference between a good gin and a great gin. Everybody can make a curry, but not everybody can make a great curry. And what you understand is your botanicals are tools, and they all do certain things to the liquid. It's not just flavour, it's mouthfeel, it's texture, it's viscosity. And some botanicals are there not for flavour, but to empower and enhance other botanicals, like salt to soup. You don't taste salt, it enhances tomato, right?
So quite a few gins use things like orris root and angelica root to bind flavours.
Exactly. So in gin making, there's a thing called the famous five: juniper, coriander seed, orris, angelica and licorice. These are your onions, tomatoes, garlic of stock making. And if you're going to make something a bit more floral, you'll raise the orris root.
Yeah.
If you're going to make something a bit more spice, you'll raise the angelica root and pull back the others. And they're like your faders, you know, to music.
So sweetness with licorice.
Exactly. So you've obviously classic London dry, juniper always forward, coriander for citrus. Once you know where you're going to go, you will change that stock, and then you'll start bringing in your guest botanicals, so to speak. So we have tea, black tea for dryness, because obviously we want you to take another sip. We have anise in there, not to taste like sambuca, but just enough. There's a compound in anise that gives a metallic feel on your tongue.
More pastis in flavour than
sambuca. You get this sort of stimulation on your tongue, a little electric kind of feel.
Nice.
We have lemon and orange peel for sweet citrus and sour citrus to balance it out. We have green cardamom, not for spice, but for that gives a creamy viscosity to a liquid. In gin distilling, it's normally nuts.
So almond normally
almond, hazelnut, nutmeg. With almond, it doesn't bring as much flavour, it just brings the viscosity. So we get a bit of a warming spice from the cardamom as well.
So you still get that aromatic note coming through as well?
Yeah, it's almost a little eucalyptus type sort of vibe. And then we have cassia bark, which is Chinese cinnamon. Yeah. It's a sweet cinnamon. It's the cinnamon that you and I get from the supermarket, but it's really cassia bark because it's sweeter on the palate. And I've done them all in a different order to our usually listening, but that should be 11 botanicals there. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, are you happy to taste?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, cool. I'll pour you some up. In fact, I can't wait for you to try it. Lovely. This is where I'm Got the gin shakes because we're on camera. Lovely. So there should be nice spice notes on the nose, a little bit of citrus on there.
You're still getting an element of, obviously I know that you can't smell sweetness, but you're getting that licorice coming through as an element of sweetness, as just to balance that citrus note.
Yeah, well, obviously you'll know when you're smelling, you are actually tasting as well, because the compounds go around your mouth, they get on your tongue, and you can get that kind of sweet notes in there. And then on the palate. So there should be a nice viscosity there. We say a good spirit warms, a bad spirit strips, and it should be very warming.
Very much so.
I'm so glad you didn't go just as I said that statement, you know. Yeah. So we set out to create a very warming spirit, and how you do that is by removing the impurities. And we have a lot of copper in our process, and when we built our stills, we built them to behave how we want them to behave. So the original still was sending out alcohol that was still very hot.
Yeah.
So we kept adding copper reflux chambers.
I think the point is that you still get an element of heat, but from the spices, not from the actual alcohol.
Yeah.
So that's across the palate, and you're feeling it on your tongue. Whereas I've always been with tasting spirits. If I feel the warmth in my chest, that's a good sign.
Yeah, nice and warming.
But you're getting the flavour and you're getting the heat from the spices, but you get a nice, again, beautiful viscosity, nice and thick. Really, really sticks to your palate.
I was going to say there should be some lingering notes there, because if
long finish.
If you're going to make a martini or something like that, it's got to have personality and character. You don't want it just to fall flat as you're drinking, you see. So we wanted to, like I say, a good tail end on there.
Nice.
And then now you should have these nice little anise notes. So if you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, you get this almost like little metallic-y kind of taste. You know, like you would not so much as a battery, but that sort of essence. You know.
Of course. What's the ABV on this?
So, well, it should be 41%. I know it's 41%. Yeah, 41%.
No, it's good. For that slightly higher ABV, you don't get that alcoholic heat, which is really nice.
No, thank you. Yeah,
really nice.
I guess down to the processes and techniques that we use towards distilling.
But you're picking up the citrus, you're picking up that sweet finish and slight metallic note coming through. You've got that lovely heat and spice from the botanicals, and then obviously the nice warmth from the ABV as well, but without that burning sensation that you get with some other spirits.
Well, the great thing is as well, you know, we're tasting it at the strength we intend it to taste. So ABV, different flavours shine at different ABVs, right? Course, so this is what we wanted to showcase. But when you put it with a fantastic tonic that allows the gin to shine, you're changing the ABV and you start getting more citrus notes because you've dampened it down a bit. If you turn it to a martini where it's still a bit punchier but still dampened, you get more tea notes come through. So it kind of changes its complexity on how you serve it, which is really good.
Yeah, well, I think this, for me, Franklin & Son's natural light tonic water would work great for this because it would really bring out that citrus note as well. The sugar content is slightly less, so you're still getting that balance from the licorice and sweetness coming through from there. So I think that would work amazingly well. I'm going to get you behind the bar to make a drink soon.
Right,
but
lovely.
Before I do, obviously you used to be a bartender, but you're also about to open up your own bar now.
Well, it's funny you say that. So we, coming from an innovation background, we're always hurling up ideas, and we need, I guess, test beds to be able to try out these ideas. We can't be just bringing out. We're not a gin brand that's rolling out with 20 flavours in its first year. We're very tight with our portfolio and what we want to bring out, but we don't want these ideas to go to waste. So we are relocating our distillery to Sunnybank Mills in Farsley. We've got a larger distillery to help supply the demand, but adjacent to it, we're going to have like a glass wall, and then we're opening up what will be called test bar, similar to what a test kitchen is to a chef. Where we can make our wildest dreams in the distillery and serve them up in the glass for the next day, and change the menu and stuff.
That's a cool idea.
But it's a good idea now. We're thinking it can go beyond that. We can try different menu concepts. We can try local produce for the additional ingredients outside of our gin for cocktails, and bring in other bartenders. You know, if they want to test a menu but don't want to test it on their bar, they can come over here, and vice versa. So it's going to be like a nice
little takeovers. And stuff like that.
So a good creative hub for liquid innovation or liquid gastronomy or whatever it's going to be, you know.
Are you Are you worried at all with this current energy crisis that we're all looking at?
Because obviously when we signed on the dotted line for all this, there wasn't an energy crisis. So it is very worrying. We're seeing friends within hospitality, especially around Leeds, that are being transparent with their bills and showing the industry what's going on. And there's some friends that were paying $1,200 a quarter, as now £7,000 a quarter.
Yeah.
And this is not a chain that can sort of absorb these sort of costs. They're small, independent business, so it is very, very, very worrying.
Yeah, I've seen some shocking examples of 700% uptake, and a restaurant in Beverley which went from under 3,000 per year to 22.5 grand.
Yeah.
There's a cafe in Leicester that went from 10 grand to 55 grand. I mean,
that's just one element of it. What we've noticed as well is in fuel costs, glass costs, paper costs for labels, caps. All these little costs add up, and for a small business, it is consuming what is the profit margin for a small business. And the mad thing is, the bigger businesses get it cheaper because they buy bulk. Yeah, there should be a sliding scale on that. If a small business should be able to reach them sort of price points to empower small business and innovation, and you know, but at the moment it seems to be the bigger companies get it cheaper, the smaller companies have to pay more to play in this area and then get stung more on the other side with the bills and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of well, it's disgusting really, but
it's difficult. It's definitely hard. It's going to be a hard few years.
Yeah,
but the one benefit of being a smaller company is that your passion helps be able to push you through all of this.
Yeah. Well, again, we see that in the industry. There's people that are still fighting it head on, and you know, it's sad when you see an institute close down and stuff. And there's only so much berating and beating a small business can take. You know what I mean? And I'm worried on the long-term stuff of the industry, of how it's gonna tackle it. You know, we've got stills to run, some people have griddles, ovens, fridges to run, all that kind of stuff.
That are on all the time.
That are on all the time, yeah.
Well, let's hope there's, at some point,
fingers
a
crossed,
bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, or some help from the government, or some sort of, you know, I'm no politician, but I hope there's something from that.
All right, perfect.
Lovely.
All right, mate. Well, you up for making a drink?
Yeah, super keen.
Happy days, let's go.
Good stuff.
Okay, buddy, so what are we making?
I'm going to make you a couple of exceptional G&Ts using our John Roberts Botanic Request London Dry Gin, and with Franklin's Natural Light Tonic Water.
Beautiful.
Give me a second. So we've got a double measure of London Dry Gin.
Yeah.
Just give me a second.
Always a double.
Yeah. Unless stated otherwise. And the key to a good G&T, I mean, I've said this hundreds of times, is plenty ice. There's nothing more frustrating than floating ice and stuff like that, because you gotta keep that gin and tonic cold, right?
Well, it's the bartender's best tool.
Yeah, ice.
Yeah.
It's
the bartender's best tool. And I think the problem is that you get with a lot of, from a consumer point of view, people think we're cheating you out of the spirit, but you see the measure, it's 50 ml.
Oh, we get it all the time. Less ice, I think they're getting more gin. But they're just getting a warm
mixer.
warmer drinker mixer. So we're going to fill up to the top. We're going to leave a nice window. We normally do like 50 ml gin, 150 ml tonic. That's a ratio we go because we really want the gin to come through. And the reason we choose Franklin's Light Tonic is some tonics out there concentrate on being heavy in quinine and flavour, and what I like about Franklin's is it kind of complements the gin and lets the gin shine.
Beautiful.
So we take a little spoon, and what we want to do is just lift that spirit without flattening the tonic, because you just don't want all the gin sat on the bottom. And we have two serves of our gin and tonic. We have our simple serve, just a simple lemon zest. We don't want a lemon wedge or lemon juice in there, as it's an additional ingredient.
Using the aromatic of the lemon rather than the juice.
Exactly, we're adding aroma to the drink rather than flavour to the drink. And then we have our exceptional serve, which is dill. Now, the reason we choose dill is, one, it smells beautiful. It's high in D-limonene. D-limonene pairs with lemon, which is limon, limonene, and it's a big flavour compound that's within our gin. So what I've not mentioned before is the botanicals we choose are all relate on a flavour compound level. So there's nothing in there that shouldn't be in there. And the one thing that could go in there without mixing up the harmony is dill. We tried that in the MPD stages and we realised it's the aroma that we want of it. So we kept it for our garnish.
Awesome, nice.
Lovely. So you've got, there you go.
Thank
John
you
Roberts,
very much.
Botanic Request, exceptional G&T.
Beautiful. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Salud.
Salud. Delicious, if I may say so myself.
No, stunning.
What
Light, refreshing, and that dill just brings it to life on the nose.
Yeah, as you're slurping in, it comes round and just really complements it.
That's awesome, man.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you a bottle so you can put it through its paces, make a couple of drinks, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.
No, I'm looking forward to that, mate. I've got a few ideas already, so that's brilliant. Thanks for coming down today.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Absolute
having me.
pleasure. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
So Ben's been very kind in giving me a bottle of his gin from the John Roberts Botanic request. So what I'm going to do is play around with his perfect serve that he did earlier and create a really cool fizz. So we're going to use 50 mils of John Roberts Botanic request with Franklin & Sons elderflower and cucumber tonic, a little bit of dill, taking inspiration again from his highball, and then we're also going to take inspiration from Tom earlier and use a super juice using citric acid mixed in with the lime zest and then juice added later. So let's get started. We're going to go in with 25 milliliters of egg white, 25 milliliters of super juice, and then for balance I'm going to use 15 ml of sugar syrup, and of course a good measure 50 ml of John Roberts Botanic Request gin. I'm going to give that a dry shake with one single ice cube. That's to aerate the egg white and to get that foam really working. Once that single ice cube stopped rattling, we're ready to shake again, full of ice, to create that dilution and to chill the drink. Beautiful. So, take a nice tall glass and fine strain that mixture, catching all the little shards of ice that we've broken while shaking. And then we're going to top with the elderflower and cucumber tonic from Franklin & Sons. All the way to the top. The foam will hold it. And then I didn't use dill inside the drink. What I want to do is just get that little note coming through from the garnish. So here I have a nice little sprig of fresh dill that I'm just gonna gently pop on the top like so. And there we have our Botanic Request fizz.